Mr. Bright Appiah, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
What is your general impression or observation about the various party manifestos regarding children?
If you look at the various political manifestos, you clearly see that they have stated something that they want to do for children. For instance, when you look at the MPP, they are looking at enforcing the Children's Act and also making sure that they made resources available to also some of the institutions so that they can implement their work very well. If you'd also look at the NDC, it is also talking about the same thing in a different direction, looking at how they can empower and some institutions also to do their work. And if you look at the PPP, they are basically looking at how they can also harmonize some relationship that exists between the family and then the school environment so that they can ensure that the child is safe in the school environment. And PNC has a good policy in relation to children because they more or less look at child protection in terms of how they can deal with the issues. When you also look at the CPP, you're also talking about the same thing. But what you can also see, if you want to harmonize all this is the issue of how they want to protect their school environment for children. So that is what I have seen, because when you look at the MPP, you look at the chapter 4, it's basically talking about some of these things. And I think that they have stated something in their manifesto that they want to do. And I think on that basis, we can have any discussion based on what they have presented, whether indeed it meets what we expect as a nation, looking at the various issues that children are facing in this country, whether it's also important that we look at the thematic areas in terms of issues that are affecting the nation. But it's just a summary of the things that they want to do, and then on that basis we can have some discussion. So, well, they have stated something, so we can look at it from that angle.
But you are a practitioner on the ground. What are the challenges on the ground in real terms? And do you think that the propositions that have been made by the various manifestos are speaking directly to the real challenges?
Yes, I think that most of the issues that we are faced as a nation when it comes to child development, they are enormous. We cannot just limit ourselves to what they have presented, because clearly in their various manifestos, they did not give us how they want to deal with those issues. It's just a statement, because when you look at the various chapters that they have in their manifesto, or the point, you clearly see that some aspects are so voluminous in terms of how they want to go about it. But when you look at the component that talks about children, it's just some lines, that addresses issues of children. So it raises a whole lot of questions as to whether indeed they also recognize the fundamental issues that affect children. And I think that in going forward, and the challenge that I see is I will relate it to the kind of educational policy that they want to implement and what the consequences will be if they don't address some of the social issues that are affecting children. Basically, we can look at the family system, which, of course, when you look at the Constitution of Ghana, you clearly see that the Article 28 is devoted for the right of children. And then also the 27, it is also talking about the fact that even anything that you want to do for women, it should be in the interest of children, which, of course, that gives us the basis to also see how we can come out with policies that will affect children. And one of the things that, for me, the political party did not address is what happens to the child in the family system, in the family environment, which, for me, is one of the issues that they have to critically look at, because the child moves from the house to the school environment, and whatever also affects the child at home will certainly also affect the quality of how the best that the child can give when the child is in the school environment. So there's a limited attention when it comes to building a very strong family system, where even the late class, there are a lot of children that are suffering from abuse, and that may not be direct, but indirectly, some leave the house as early as 4 o'clock, and they come to the house as late as 10, and that, to some extent, also amount to abuse. So there's a need for the policy system to be able to recognize that these are the very children who need support, and we need to also address their demand. And the other aspect for me is the issue of how the political parties would come up with a policy that would address some of the institutional weakness that we have in the system. Because if clearly you see the budget that we've made since 1992, you clearly see that whatever we devote for the development of children is little. And it is not even explicit. It is not that we are saying that this is the amount of money that we are giving to the development of children. But it's captured under the ministry, and then the ministry decides which amount that needs to go to the development of children. And if you do assessment of what even goes to social welfare and Department of Children, you clearly see that it's nothing to write home about in terms of the issues that children are facing in this country. So history will tell us in terms of our budget allocation to children that the limited attention in terms of how we build the capacity of this institution to be able to deal with issues that are affecting children. And social welfare is one of the institutions that, for me, they need to talk about. But there was I can virtually say that they did not even look at social welfare in terms of addressing the social issues, in the country. So these are some of the challenges that makes it very difficult in terms of following up on the various issues that they've captured in their manifesto, and how you can clearly see the way so that if you want to do follow-up to the various issues that they've raised, whoever becomes a president or whoever assumes the position becomes a government, you follow up with it. So those are the clear issues that, for me, we need to look at and address very well, because the population of the children now stands at 64%. So within 10 years, we've grown by 10%. And it's a huge sector that you cannot take for granted. So if you want a policy that will stand the test of time, be it economy, be it whatever it is, then you need to address that sector very well, because whatever happens to them at that level can also have effect on the policy that you want to implement.
Over the years, what has been the extent of the implementation of the various policies that have been geared towards children? I
think after the signing of the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, government did well to put up the what we call the Child Cannot Wait document in 1993, and that also culminated in the passage of the Children's Act, which started our commitment in terms of how we want to address issues affecting children. And since then, we have told the way of looking at addressing children issues from the social intervention perspective, where we can decide on a policy base that we want to implement this, we want to implement that, which you cannot situate it within a certain framework, following a certain direction. And that makes it very difficult if they want to enforce certain aspect of it, because we need to also see how best we can deal with issues affecting children. So it has been more or less like a gift, to children, without recognizing some fundamental constitutional right that children need to enjoy. Because when you look at the Article 25 of the Constitution and then the 38, it's very, very difficult to enforce these two, because one is under the directive principle of the state policy, and that one also is a different thing. And when you look at what is under the directive principle of the state policy, which can easily be enforced, it makes it so open that it will be very difficult for you to say that you want to pursue it. But Article 25 is clear in terms of how you want to go about it. But because it's very difficult to enforce that, it makes you open up the system in such a way that you find it very difficult to follow up and then tell government that this is what you have to do and this is the way you have to go about it. So there's a little commitment again in terms of addressing those issues. And I would want to pick it from the allocation that we make, the various government has made towards child development in Ghana, and then how we even pursue social policies, because we can talk about the school feeding program, how it came about. And before even the implementation of the program, we didn't have any direct policy in terms of how we want to enroll that policy for the benefit of our children. And it is an investment policy. You can talk about the capitation grant, which When we started implementing it, we didn't have any plan in terms of how we want to just go about it. But it's just recently that we've decided to have certain plans to be able to monitor the process. You can talk about the National Health Insurance Policy, which of course also gives room for children to access certain privileges. But all of this, they are all investments policies that we put in place for the betterment of our children so that they can give us the best results. But as it is now, you cannot even monitor the investment that we've made and then the results, which of course make it, that's why I call it a gift policy that we are just doing. But it's an investment that we are making. So we need to follow through the process to find out how this investment that we are making to our children is yielding results. And it is because of the way we look at children. It is because of the little attention that we give to them. So whatever we invest in them, we don't see it as something worth to follow up on. So those are the various issues that I will raise. And I think that it's following a trend, which for me, we need to, as a nation, begin to look at how best we can deal with those issues. Because now, children in any nation, especially people who have committed themselves to the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, should look at children as a legal entity. And if whatever we do for them, we should look at it that it is something that they deserve, and it is something that we have to hold people responsible. So those are the things. The issue of the free uniform is one typical policy that I find is very interesting because it doesn't have any policy direction how you can distribute it. So most researches that we've done, when you visit most of the rural communities, it is either at the booth of the MP who is distributing it or the DCE, and I feel that it's not worth its salt if you really respect the constituency that you are, because they deserve certain respect. We need to give them their place, and then also make sure that whatever we do for them, we respect them. I'm not sure that if you are going to give any support to any bank, you can decide that you should put it at the back of a MP's booth. It is never done. So we should recognize children as a legal entity and then respect any support that we give to them. I think by so doing, we can have a better nation. Because if you look at the kind of investment that we are making into children, it have a direct effect on the kind of intervention that we can even put in place in terms of if we even want to deal with crime. Because when you listen to the president at the IEA, he made it clear that the areas that we've not seen any reduction in terms of crime against children, crime against the nation is rape and defilement. And that for me is a very serious issue that we have to deal with. Then it means that there is something wrong. If we've been able to curtail armed robbery, which he gave statistics to that effect, but he says that when it comes to rape and defilement, it's on the increase. So it means that we are not really taking care of our children very well. And if you have a population which the 64% of that population are children who are below the age of 18 years, and they are going to rape and defilement cases, then it's really serious. It leaves a lot of issues that we need to deal with. So it is important that we look at how we can address those issues that are affecting our children.
But then I've heard also some people say that, look, you can't look at the rights of the child exclusively from the general needs of the society within which it lives. And that brings me to the point again that you raised about the statistics on rape and defilement, etc. We are told that a lot of these cases are not even reported because there's collusion, there's family aspect to it, etc. People who culturally may see it as a problem, even coming out to come and see a thing like this. So therefore, don't you think the approach towards addressing concerns regarding children, etc., is this what is already in place, that you are looking at the bigger picture of providing them with free school uniforms, of providing them with access to healthcare through the NHIS, LEAP, empowering domestic home space managers, parents, etc., with some money to be able to fend for the children? Perhaps isn't that a better approach to dealing with the needs of children, rather than looking at a separate policy directly targeted only at children, exclusive of the environments from which they are coming from?
Yeah, I think that is true, and it is important that we look at various issues that affect the environment, because the child is part of the environment. That is what other school of thought will say. So therefore, whatever happens to the child, it is something that we have to look at it exclusively. And I am of the opinion that, yes, we can look at those issues, but we should also look at it from the angle that we should have to place the child at the center if you even want to deal with those issues. And the Constitution even recognizes that if you want to support women, any support that you want to give to them should be in the best interest of the child. When you want to do anything, even the Children's Act says that the best interest of the child should be paramount in anything that we do. So the child should be at the center of anything that we want to rally so far as the environment is concerned. Because the issue is that it is we in the environment that create those problems that affect children, which of course we cannot deny that, because defilement cases have been perpetrated by adults and the rape cases and all that. So it is good for us to look at it from that angle. And we'd also think that for us to be able to deal with the issue comprehensively, what the nation needs to target now is to establish what we call the child protection system, to deal with matters that affect children, and then hold people responsible when they commit offense against children. By so doing, government will not spend so much in dealing with those issues, because the principle is that it is the people, the mess that we have in the system have been created by the people themselves. So if there is something like that, then we have to tax the people themselves to be able to resolve those issues. And if we look at it from that angle, I think that we will do a lot of good to our children than the small, the piecemeal approach that we are using, where you will not see the line between the school feeding program and then the free uniform. You don't see what is happening in the NHIS, and then the capitation grant. And you need to bring all these things together to be able to make a major effect. And there are other issues that also happen to the child in the environment that we also have to deal with it. So establishing a child protection system where institutions will work, where you have a reporting system where when something happens to a child, the child can report to it. And the system itself can generate its own resources to be able to deal with matters that affect children. And then if that happens, then everybody becomes responsible and everybody will be on the alert, because when you have a protection system, the family is held responsible for any defect. The society is also held responsible, and then government is also held responsible. So when all of them have their role to play, and they know that when they play it safe, they will not be held responsible for any act of commission or omission, then government will have lesser issues to deal with when it comes to development of children. So for me, the approach should be that as a nation, as we are moving forward, looking at the past, how we've handled issues that are affecting children, I think that we should not come to a point where we would establish child protection system to deal with matters that concerns children. UK has done it, and even theirs is not a written one, but it's very comprehensive, where certain environments, people cannot even go there because there are children there. So those are the things that we need to do. And even if you are in a particular neighborhood and you realize that a child, because anything that a child says is true, and that is what it is. Whatever the child says, the first information that the child provides is true, is the basis for any act. And later they will do their investigation to find out, to establish the truth and all of that. So when we look at it from that perspective, then the child will be saved, because their interest is paramount, to the extent that whatever even the court system does, whatever we do in this nation, the interest of the child, the law says that must be of a paramount to us. So on that basis, we can look at the approach of a government establishing a child protection system that will deal with matters affecting children.
Are we making progress in that sector? And do you get a sense that the manifestos are speaking directly to how they are going to curb that problem? Because there seems to be a pale line here, a gray area. Where do you draw the line between a child who's undergoing child labor and one who's just merely supporting the family, making some income? The story of the children working in the cocoa fields came up, and families said that, they were working on holidays to help us. We see children in the streets selling ice water, and the excuse that is given is that they're supporting the family. Do Do you sense or see anywhere in the manifestos a clear policy at addressing this problem of child labor?
The manifestos really are not talking about child labor in terms of how they want to address the issue. Some are talking about the enforcement of the Children's Act, which of course there are issues there talking about child labor. And there are others also looking at forming community police to deal with certain issues. Yes, all those things are good, but the commitment is not there, because child labor is a highly political issue. Because when you look at when the issue came up, even Parliament MPs think that it is not right for us to be talking about child labor. So it is something that even within the policy maker, within the legislature, there are a lot of misfeeling about what exactly we can call child labor. So it is highly political. Unless it has economic implication, that is where you see us moving to address. Because when you look at the child labor, even the cocoa sector, which affect our cocoa, when the buyer decided that if you are not going to do anything about it, we are not going to buy your cocoa. That was when you saw government putting in the effort to be able to address those issues. It's a very difficult topic, and it's very difficult for me to also say that this is the way we have to go. But there are implications which would also even affect policy directions so far as education policies are concerned. And then when you look at the various manifestos, most of the issues that they are talking about has to do with education. And I've even said somewhere that what even determine the outcome of this election will be your education policy and how you sell it to the people to understand it. So if you don't address child labor issues, then of course it can also affect the outcome of your policy on education. So it is a matter of recognizing that if you want to serve the best interests of children, you look at how best you can also address those issues. Because I know we've started meetings outside this country that the people outside who think that they are interested in our goods are taking serious look at child labor issues, to the extent that people who consume cocoa, children who consume cocoa, they've started doing some ad telling the children that what the cocoa, the chocolate that you are eating is being produced by your own peer somewhere in Africa, and there's a kind of perception about when those children hold against Africa, So gradually, if you don't take steps to be able to address those issues, the economic implication will be very high. So I think that we need to see how best we can address issues that are affecting children, and clearly draw the distinction between what child work is and what child labor is.
Finally, what do you see to be the critical areas of concern that the next government should attend to in relation to child rights?
I will look at it from two angles. Enforcing the Article 28 of the Constitution and then making it work, because that is where you see that the Constitution is talking about the rights of children, especially when it comes to maintenance and rehabilitation, because there are children who are languishing in prison, not because they have committed any crime, but because their parents have committed a crime. And by law, they have nothing to do with that, but they are also there. And then when it comes to also dealing with matters that are affecting children, when it comes to child abuse, when it comes to the child labor and all that, defilement cases and rape cases and all that, I think that we should look at establishing, for me, what I would propose to any government is to look at how best to establish child protection system in Ghana so that they can deal with the issues effectively through the support of the social welfare. Make sure that they resource social welfare. And for me, any government who wants to do real justice to issues that affect children should look at how to empower social welfare so that they can do their work effectively.
Mr. Bright Appiah, thank you very much for speaking to us
you.
on Manifesto TV.